multiple places. Let's see. Shift over to this screen. Welcome, everybody. My name is Gavin Hobelt. I'm the owner of Vintage Computer Center, and I'm happy to be with you guys another weekend here in sunny, smoggy, smoky California to talk about our love for our old 8-bit computers. You know, every month we try to have a special guest who joins us and from our past, our history, and kind of relive some of those fond memories that we had as children or young adults. I'd say most of us are probably close to my age. I'm 52, be 53 in another 2 months, but I got my very first Atari computer back in 1980. And shortly after that, started playing video games and got a modem and started getting in trouble and had a bulletin board for a couple of years and enjoyed this community. And of course, I got out of it like a lot of us for years. About 5 years ago, I decided to drag my old boxes out of the storage that had my original Atari 800 computer in it, and realized that as it sat just like that, it wasn't going to be very useful. So I made an S-Drive Max years ago because I wanted to be able to back up all my floppies onto SD cards, and I ended up never doing that. I decided that, wow, these devices are so cool, and it seemed like there was a lot of people out there that could have benefited from the devices but didn't know how to build them. So I decided to start building S-Drives and selling them across the world to the community, and never was able to keep one in stock for me to use. Every time I'd build one for me, I'd run out and somebody would want one, and I'd have to give them mine. So needless to say, I never got that done. But then I discovered, you know, it was really fun playing with modems on these old computers. And, you know, there probably isn't a lot of dial-up connections anymore. In fact, I don't even have dial tone in my house anymore. So I started looking at some Wi-Fi type modems, and there was a couple of small projects that were out there that I thought I'd try, and I got a couple of them to work. And then these guys came up with this idea of FujiNet, and it went crazy from there. So Vintage Computer Center is one of the big suppliers of FujiNets, primarily in the United States, but we do have customers all over the world, I'm happy to say. We're approaching our 700th FujiNet that we've sold in gosh, it's been under a year now. We first started selling them September 28th of last year. We're on version 1.5 now. I know there's another version in the works that Moswell is working on for the hardware that's going to have a little bit better SIO connection on the backside of it. You know, I had never really played with the FujiNet earnestly other than testing them until this last week, and now I see the frustration. I can't get an SIO cable to stay into the back of it very easily, so Moz is working on an update for those, and hopefully the SIO cables for those of us that want to daisy chain the FujiNets will have a better connection on the next rev. But you know, I decided to get back into this community, and about 9 to 12 months ago, some guys on Atari Age created this small group, and we would meet once a month and have discussions like this. We would just kind of share what was going on, what each of us was doing with our computers, and things like that. And I was handed the torch a few months ago to take over the meeting, and I figured, well, if the 5 or 6 of us that meet every week enjoy it so much, then why not make it a little bit more public and see if we can get more people involved in this. And I recruited Peter up here, who's my friend from Poland, one of my many friends from Poland, and he's the self-proclaimed marketing director now for Vintage Computer Center, and he's kind of made this thing explode. He started finding some really cool people to come and join us. You know, Scott Warshaw, Mr. E.T., you know, the person who destroyed the game industry back in the 80s. He joined us a couple of months ago, and it was a blast talking with Scott. We talked about his new book and the things he's working on. And then we had Montezuma's Revenge this last month, and that was really cool because you know, he's got a new version of Montezuma's Revenge, kind of a master's collection that he's coming out with here soon. He actually has a copy for iOS and Android of a new version of Montezuma's Revenge, and I paid $3 last time we were talking to him and got it, and it was just as frustrating as I remember Montezuma's Revenge being. I know one of our visitors last month said he actually took the diskette or the cartridge of Montezuma's Revenge and threw it across the room when he was a kid when he had it because it was so frustrating. But needless to say, we're trying to expand this group. COVID kind of forced everybody to be in their houses, and we couldn't meet in person. I know that's slowly starting to change. In fact, today in Texas, there is an old computer geeks meeting in person that's going to be taking place this afternoon. I wish I was in Texas so I could join that. In fact, I'm kind of looking through the list here of people to see if a couple of my Texas guys are on here. I don't know how close it is to you, Thomas, but I know it's starting to get more in person. Oh, there's Eric. I figured Eric was here somewhere. Are you going to go to that, Eric?
I believe it's. I didn't realize it was today. I didn't know the details had been finalized. I saw the discussion, but do you know the location exactly where it is?
Yes, it's the National Video Game History Museum in Frisco. So it's basically right next to the IKEA in Frisco, Texas. So that's DFW area for those who aren't here.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yep. So I'll be there. They want me there doing a dog and pony for FujiNet. So I'll be there at 7 p.m.
Nice.
I'll be there as well.
They're not going to stream any of that or anything, right? It's, if you're not there, you don't get to take a look at it or anything?
I do not know.
Well, I think it's cool that we're starting to meet more in person. I know, it seems like COVID, again, is back on the uptick and things are getting possibly shut down again. But I miss people. I really miss faces. I hate seeing masks all the time. I like to be able to, read people's expressions. And it's nice to see faces, even if we've got to do it virtually. And I'm glad that we're at least able to do this the way we're doing it now. So, and it's nice that we're getting a bigger, diverse group. Like I said, I'd like to branch out. It doesn't have to just be Atari folks. I know Commodore was huge back in the 80s. Apples were huge back in the days. In fact, I just posted on the FujiNet Facebook group that I just got my first Macintosh Classic 2 that's coming. So I like other computers. I just like the era. The screen that I've got up right now is Mission Asteroid, which is the Graphic Adventure Zero from Serial Online. And, it reminds me of the Apple. I remember seeing all the artifact on the Apple screens when they tried to do color. And, this is the stuff that I enjoy, and I think a lot of us do. And I don't want to just make it nothing but Atari. Atari is my first love and will always be, and that's going to be a big part of my life. But I welcome, TRS-80, Apple, Commodore, whatever. The more the merrier. So, it's a real unstructured type meeting. Anybody is welcome to talk. I've seen a couple of people in the chat. You're more than welcome to pop in here. I don't restrict it. I don't have it so that people can't unmute themselves. We want it to be interactive and have as many people being involved in it as we possibly can. The only thing I do ask is that you treat each other with respect. We may have differing opinions on things, and that's cool, but let's just be nice to each other. There's enough not nice stuff in the world already. So that's my only rule here. There are a couple of co-hosts that I've got helping me just in case. Knock on wood, we've never had a problem. Everybody I've met in this group has been really awesome. I see Sasha there from Germany. He's joined us. Jürgen, everybody knows him, his amazing hardware that he makes for the community, that I just never can get enough of. So, we've got a lot of people that are really active in this community, and that really makes me happy. I actually saw, back in the early 80s, I ran a couple of bulletin boards. The first one I had was called Tabs, Total Access Bulletin Board Service, and it didn't stay up very long. We really had no focus. And then the next one was called Crystal Palace. And my actual co-sysop, who has been, one of my best friends since probably 5th grade, he's on here now. He joined us from San Diego area today. I've made long-term friendships with people. The guy who helped customize the bulletin board that we use, him and I are still in touch. He's up in San Jose. He's in the tech industry, as I knew he would be back in the 80s when he was helping me. It's an awesome community, and I only hope to see it grow. This is the meeting today. I really kind of pushed it a lot on Facebook, and again, it's because I'm a fanboy of Serial Online. I grew up in Oakhurst, which is where Serial Online started. It was really cool to live in a town. I believe it was about 7,000 people when Sierra Online first came there. So to have a company like that form in a little tiny mountain community that was right outside Yosemite National Park here in California was just awesome. I've got super fond memories of it. My dad did some of their early artwork. In fact, that was what I was kind of showing before the meeting. Of course, back in this day, video games didn't look that great, so they really tried to entice you to buy the game based on the artwork on the cover of the game. And these are the ones that my father did for them. Cranston Manor, which is this one, was the first one that my dad did for Sierra Online. My dad worked for the local phone company, and I think he installed the phones at Sierra Online when they first moved into a building down in Oakhurst. And he got to talking to him and told him that he was an artist. And next thing I know, he's doing game art for Sierra Online. And it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool to watch him develop this artwork. And then to go and meet Ken. And Ken has a brother, John Williams, who was also part of Sierra Online. And, you know, I just hung out. I was kind of like I think I was 10, 11, 12 years old at this time. So I would just go make a test of myself. I'd go hang out at Sierra Online and watch what they were doing and play test games for them when I was there. And I've got a long history of fond memories. You know, Cranston Manor was one that I thought was really kind of cool, but it never came out for the Atari. Jawbreaker, this one was my absolute favorite game. I had this on cassette, and it used to take like 30 minutes to load that when I wanted to play the game. But I would play that and basically wore the tape out. So I got involved with Sierra Online at a young age, just kind of being a pest and hanging out as a little obnoxious kid that had nothing better to do. And at some point, you know, they hired me to create their hint line BBS, which was their first iteration of hint services that they had. So I set up the bulletin board for them again as a kid. I think I was in high school when I did that. And after high school, I got a job at Sierra Online doing QA. I didn't last very long because I was a very opinionated 18-year-old. And I think I said a couple of the wrong things to Ken's right-hand man, Rick Cabin, and I ended up getting canned. And I remember going up into Ken's office crying, please begging him to let me keep my job because I loved it there. And he's like, Gavin, you know, I'm really sorry, but I'm not going to go against what my general manager is doing. And I understood it. It hurt my feelings, but I understood. I also have a lot of memories of dumpster diving. And for those of you that aren't here in the States, you may not know what dumpster diving is, but it's when you actually physically jump in a trash dumpster and dig through it looking for stuff. Well, Sierra Online had two very large dumpsters out in front of their facility that they would throw away countless floppy disks of. And me and a couple of buddies, we would go out at night and we'd go through the dumpsters and we'd get diskettes. And it was amazing how many disks that Sierra would throw away on a continual basis. They were, you know, mostly bad, but a lot of them could be reformatted. And blank floppies back in the day, it was $50 for a box of blank floppies back in the day. So, you know, being poor mountain kids, we couldn't afford, to go buy floppies all the time. So we'd go dumpster dive, but we'd also get a lot of game sets. You know, we'd find, you know, disc 3 of this game and disc 2 of that game and disc 1 of this game. And after doing it for months, you know, we'd have full sets of Sierra games. So I hate to admit it, but me and a couple of my buddies would go dumpster diving all the time at Sierra Online trash cans for diskettes. But hey, you did what you had to do back then. We also made our own printer cables and serial cables because they were too expensive to buy, and you had no other choice. So Sierra Online has been a company that I've really had fond memories of. I saw a lot of ups and downs with Sierra, and I'm sure Ken will probably talk about the ups and downs that Sierra experienced over the years. But with any other company, there's good times and there's bad times. Sierra would expand. They'd overexpand. They'd have to contract by either selling buildings or laying off people. And then when things were good, they'd expand again. And it would go up and down. And all the promotion I did of Ken coming and talking to us today, all of it was positive except for one guy. And one guy said, you should bring up Chainsaw Monday. And anybody that's familiar with the history of Sierra Online knows exactly what Chainsaw Monday is. And that's after Ken and Roberta had sold the company. There was a decision made by the board that it was too hard to find talented people that would be willing to relocate to the small mountain community of Oakhurst. So they shuttered the Oakhurst facilities and brought some people up to Seattle, which is where their new corporate office was. And it disrupted a lot of people's lives. There was a lot of people that didn't want to move out of the area and ended up losing their jobs. And some people got very upset with the Williams about that. I look at it as kind of a business standpoint. By that time, even by the mid to late 80s, Sierra Online was a corporation and had board members that it had to report to and had stockholders that it had to appease. So the power was taken from Ken and Roberta when that happened, and it became a corporation. So this guy was really pissed off and called, Ken scum and did scummy things, all because of this Chainsaw Monday. And I sent him a letter that Ken Williams gave to everyone when that happened, saying that, how bad they felt that this had to happen, but it was out of their control. And the guy responded, yeah, I saw that letter. He's still a piece of trash. And, I responded saying, it was a corporation. The corporation made the decision. Why is that making Ken and Roberta trash? Because the corporation changed directions. And he never responded to that. So, I think more people have a fond memory of Sierra Online that have a negative one. I have a very positive one, and I'm not gonna lie about it and say they were an evil corporation. They weren't. They were a corporation. They did what companies did. I remember working there as a teenager, and the dress code, which is what I loved, was as long as your genitals are covered, you're dressed for work. They understood that creative people, you can't put them in a box. So, shorts, t-shirts, no shoes, long hair, short hair, whatever you wanted. It was a no problem kind of place to work. And I appreciated that. I thought it was, the clothing that I'm wearing doesn't mean I can do a good job. You're asking people to work long hours. When I worked there, I would typically get to the office at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I would typically leave at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd go home and I'd take a shower, and I'd get a couple hours sleep, and I'd come right back to work. Jolt Cola was the thing back in the day, and No-Dos. And that's what I lived on to keep going. But I'll tell you what, it was the funnest, most exciting job I ever had in my entire life. It was a cool company to work for. Ken expected certain things from people, and he demanded that. And Rick Cabin, which was his general manager, absolutely demanded certain things from his people, and you either did or you didn't. I saw things that I didn't necessarily agree with when I was working there, but again, it wasn't my company. I used to get a kick out of it because Ken would come by, or one of the other managers would come by, and they'd pop down a credit card on my desk and say, hey, run to Fresno, which was the closest big town to Oakhurst at the time, and go pick up this new Tandy computer. We need to beta test these games on it. Or go pick up this new Apple computer, or go pick up a PC Junior, or whatever it was, because that's how we tested all the games. We had to have one of every one of these computers in all the various configurations in order to test to see if the game would work. So it was always something new and crazy there. But it was a fond memory. And I know my co-sysop from Crystal Palace, Jeff, who's on here, he lived real close to Ken's brother, John, and Jeff and I would go over to John's house and just hang out all the time and play video games and see the latest things coming out. I remember BC's Quest for Tires. Many of us have played that. I know it's a real popular game. I got to play that before they released it as a kid. They brought like 5 or 6 of us teenagers in because they wanted to see how we would respond to the game. I got to go in and play the game and give them tell them what I thought about it. And of course, I was just awestruck to be there. So I always said, oh, this is great. This is the greatest thing in the world. I also remember many, many frustrations. There was one text adventure game. In fact, I loaded it up yesterday to see if I remembered how awful it was. It was Ulysses and the Golden Fleece, and it was all on Greek mythology. And I remember getting stuck a couple of times and getting frustrated. So I figured, I'm going to read the book, Ulysses and the Golden Fleece, because if I read the book, I'm bound to get hints on what I'm missing in this game. And when I was setting up the hint bulletin board, I was talking to one of the programmers. I shared that frustration with him, and he started laughing. He goes, man, this game's got nothing to do with the book. He goes, you can read that book till you're blue in the face and it's not going to help you. And he helped me through the spot that I was in. But that was kind of when I discovered, hey, Sierra isn't necessarily making the game to sell the game. They're making the game to sell 976 phone numbers to their hint line, or to sell their book that goes along with the game that kind of offers the hints. And I kind of got into it. It's like, oh, I get it now. They're selling the games for $40 or $50, but then they're selling 976 numbers to call to get hints. That's where the magic was. And, it made sense to me at that point. But, I was playing, I hope it doesn't offend anybody, but the game is called Soft Porn. It's the predecessor to Leisure Suit Larry. I was playing that yesterday. And I remember how frustrated I was with Sierra's games, and how I used to say things to our guest speaker under my breath here about, damn it, why did you have me die? I forgot to take the condom off, please. And I would die when I went to the casino, or, you're out on the ledge and it says, heading west looks very dangerous, and you can go down or you can go back in the room. Well, who isn't going to head west? It looks dangerous. Let's head west. Oh, you're dead. Or, anytime you turned around, you would die in one of these Sierra adventure games. I would get so frustrated, but it would keep me playing them. I couldn't wait for the next one to come out. And I see our main speaker has arrived, the infamous Ken Williams, and it looks like he's in his theater room where I saw him the last time. I was hoping he'd be out on the boat, but it looks like he's land-based right now. But Ken is here, and I would love to have him share a few words with us. I know many of you have been listening to me diatribe about Sierra Online for the last 30 minutes and how big of a fanboy I am with Sierra Online. But I'd love to have Ken share a little bit of what's going on with him, and open it up for people that like to talk to him about questions. He's got some exciting new project that he won't tell anybody much about. He also has his book that was recently released, I guess recently, about a year ago now, with Not All Fairy Tales Have Happy Endings, which is about Sierra's history. And I know Roberta has finally finished her book on some of her ancestral past, and I'd love to hear some about that too. But I won't keep blabbing on, but I'd like to have Ken share some words with us. So Ken, feel free to take it away, my friend.
Well, hey, there I am. Good morning, everyone. Let's see. As you noticed, we're at home in Seattle, which is unusual for us. Normally in summers, we're on our boat, but our boat is broken, so it's off with the mechanics. And I'm here and kind of enjoying actually having decent internet for a few days. And I don't know what I can tell you. I've been hard at work on a game. So, which is weird. I haven't worked on a game or played a game in 20 plus years. So, but I wrote the book about Sierra, and for some reason it got me thinking about games. And then I got curious about, I heard about Unity, kind of a game development language. And I thought it sounded like our old SCI that we had at Sierra. And so I got curious what it was, and I started playing with it. And then I said, well, maybe I'd do a game. And then Roberta got involved. And then, I don't know, somehow the whole thing became a big deal and took over my life. So for the last 8 months, I've been working every spare minute on the game, and was debugging up till seconds ago. And we'll be debugging again when this finishes, and hoping by probably, well, we were hoping for Christmas this year, but you know how that goes. I'm guessing February or March next year, hopefully sooner, but there's a lot of work to be done. So that's, anyway, in a nutshell, that's me.
Well, Ken, I seem to remember back at the Sierra Technology Center down there at the base of Deadwood, where we were pushing for those deadlines. We were working 24 hours a day. What's your excuse, buddy? You need to, that candy truck is sitting out in the driveway waiting to be loaded up with boxes of products.
Yeah, I remember. I was thinking about it this morning, that when I was a young lad or whatever, we used to refer to them as all-nighters and pulling an all-nighter. And especially in the early days, Al Lowe would come over to our house and actually kind of slept there. And when we were doing, I think it was Black Cauldron or something, he lived with us for months doing the game Black Cauldron. So yeah, but I haven't I haven't pulled an all-nighter in a long time, although we're starting to get close these days. So doing a lot of work.
Well, I mean, that's the nice thing now with this project is you're in charge of all of it, the release date, when it's ready to go, it's ready to go. So you don't have to kill yourself to do it anymore. And maybe that comes with age and wisdom. We don't have to work that as hard anymore. I was excited when I heard you pick Unity, because Unity was something that I started playing with a couple of years ago, just out of boredom. And it's a cool game engine. I remember Sierra's proprietary game engines, and if I remember right, there was actually two of them. There was an early version and then a later version, and I can't remember which one. When I was actually working for you, we were doing that wonderful helicopter simulator game, and I can't remember which game engine it was that you guys were using at the time. But I took part in that with Joe Woodford, and I remember having the helicopter actually come and land there at the Sierra Technology Center so that Joe could get a flight in it and get an idea how the controls actually felt. And that was what I thought was kind of cool with Sierra. And I was sharing before you got here, I remember having to run down to Fresno and pick up computers so we could test whatever game we were working on in the latest computer, and how you had to do that. And now with engines like Unity, you can test it on one machine and you know it's going to work on everything you're going to push it out to, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, we're kind of going through that this morning to doing the build for Android for Oculus, the VR thing. And and I'm actually having to keep two copies of the project. I have a Windows one and a Oculus one, so that I can do builds for each and go back and forth. And someplace I've got my, I got my headset, which kind of fun. But
so you're being real closed mouth about this game, Ken, but you really got a lot of us curious, especially with Roberta in on it too, since we know, Roberta's creative mind with the King's Quest series, the stuff that she's done. Any little hints about what this adventure game is going to be, Ken? Come on.
It is a true 3D adventure, first person. For a first effort, I didn't want to mess with having a little walking around character. I just wanted to do everything first. It actually makes it a little easier on the coding. But assuming this game does well, I mean, Roberta's already thinking ahead to what the next game would be. We wanted. When I first signed up for it, the goal was to think of something easy to do that we could just whip out real quick, and I could get used to programming in Unity. But project grew, and now suddenly it's going from what I thought was going to be a 30-day project to this will probably be 14 or 15 months before it's over, and we're probably the midpoint, maybe a little past the midpoint. Just finishing up the first demo on the game, and I think people like it. But no, I don't want to say too much about it yet. Soon. I don't know. We're kind of enjoying the fact that it's nice not to have a whole lot of pressure in a way. I mean, I did not do a Kickstarter or anything for this, and I kind of like the idea that there's no pressure on me although I guess there's pressure from me for a ship date. It's just my style. It's like the book. When I started on the book, it drove Roberta crazy because all of a sudden, I was every free minute, whenever I was awake, I was working on the book. When I get into a project, I really get into it. And she's kind of the same way. When I gave her the first kind of part of the game to start playing, she kind of went crazy and was nonstop playing and driving me crazy until, because she gave us a long list of things to work on. So,
well, this has got to be like a flashback to you back when you first started Sierra, because that's kind of the way it was when you guys first started Sierra, and you and Roberta teamed up and started creating that first game. So this has got to be very reminiscent of that, but. You're retired now, Ken. So luckily now you can work on your schedule and you don't have to kill yourself like you guys did back then. But I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing what genre it is. What time frame it is. If it's back to our medieval times. If it's futuristic. If it's I can't wait. I sat there and I was looking at some of your stuff on eBay. I'm trying to find a collection of all of the things of the cover art that my dad did, and I found. you've got an unbelievable fan base on eBay, and the products are selling for an absolute astonishing amount. The guy that I found that had Cranston Manor wanted $3,500 for it, and I told him, like, I'm sorry, there's no way. Well, guess what? I thought that was the most expensive one, and last night I'm cruising again, looking around, and believe it or not, Softporn, somebody is wanting $3,900 for it out of Germany, and I guess I insulted the guy when I said, do you have a realistic price that you'd sell me Cranston Manor for? And he kind of got offended when I offered $300, which I thought was ridiculous. But apparently you've got a fan base, Ken, still out there that people value it, and that was what I was talking about when you joined us. I loaded up Softporn yesterday. I hadn't played it in years. I don't think I played it since high school when I thought I was playing something really dirty. And I forgot how much I love that game and how much, it's the text adventure version of Leisure Suit Larry, and how frustrated I would get playing those games. But it's just, there's something about a text adventure game that you've got to put the pictures in your head. And I enjoyed that. I said, but I'm looking forward to seeing, I might have to go buy an Oculus Rift. I don't have one yet, but you might force my hand into actually buying one.
We're doing desktop too. Windows and Mac, and we'll see what all platforms, for sure. Windows, Mac, and Oculus 2, and Oculus Rift, and that I'm not sure what others beyond that. That part of it, the fun for me is in creating and seeing it evolve, doing all the rollovers to other languages and other platforms. I think I'll kind of hate when we get to it, but it's fun. It's fun. It's and like you said, it feels good to be working with Roberta and have a small team. There's just Roberta, myself, an artist, Marcus, and one lady who's an engineer who's doing the trying to keep up with us, porting the game over to the Oculus as we go. So Marcus and I are focused on the Windows version, and she's doing the Oculus version, and we're having fun. I don't know. Any questions from anybody? Anything I can tell anyone?
Well, I know in the chat, I've got one person that said they were glad to see it was going to be Mac supported, which of course, that Unity makes that really, really easy. And then one of our Germans has asked, what about the new VCS? Is it going to support that? And I would think that's kind of early to tell on that one, but
I've been so unplugged from all of this. I hate to admit how dumb I am on all of it. But like the other day, somebody asked, or I asked how hard it was going to be to roll it to the PS3 or something, and they're up to like PS5 or 6 or 7, and I have no idea. I haven't, I don't own an Xbox. I don't even know if they still make Xbox. I really am pretty much a Windows and Mac person. So and even Oculus, when I started, I had never had one on before, and I still don't know if I like it. When I put it on and see the game, it does look cool, but it's just disconcerting. I don't know. Progress in some ways you kind of almost wonder about, because like you said, with the text game, text is pretty cool. I actually, I kind of miss, the new game does not have a parser. And I kind of miss the early days of Sierra when we did have a parser. And I know of a lot of people that learn their English playing our original games. And even when I was trying to learn French, I remember playing the French version of our games, trying to learn French. And it was, it was pretty cool. So, progress. Oh God, the graphics are, I could see Gavin's screen with, early graphics. Graphics have come a long ways, although sometimes I wonder if it's for the better when, because sometimes art can kind of get in the way of gameplay, because suddenly you're trying to load 10 megabyte images into memory or 5 megabyte images, and it gets tougher. I mean, the early days when that picture you're showing there was probably, I don't know, under 2K, it just popped right into memory and you could play. So you were focused on the gameplay, not on the pretty art. So
I got stuck in this one too. This was Mission Asteroids, which was your graphic adventure 0, and I was playing a little bit this morning, and I actually cheated and went and looked up a hint, and it's like I still, for some reason, the parser is not taking what should go into a certain game or a certain place in this game, and it's not taking it. And it's getting frustrating. But I remember that was all part of it, is learning it. And we've got somebody in the chat that said that he's recently played King's Quest 1 with his grandson to help him learn how to spell words. And that's something I didn't really think about. You that used to help us learn how to spell as kids. When you go into this room here, you've got to learn how to spell secretary if you want to interact with her, and that's something that kids just don't have anymore now. It's all point and click. And getting back into this community after so many years and seeing the people my age getting back into this community, and we've forgotten how to use these computers, man. It's all point and click. If there's no mouse that I can click on an icon, I can't figure out how to make it work. And that is something to be said for these old games, with having to learn how to interact, how to think more logically. I think, the part that I got stuck in here is there's a room with an Atari computer and a diskette. You pick up the diskette, of course. Well, you got to put the diskette in the computer, and figuring out the words to use to put the disk in the computer. It's a learning experience. It's also a frustrating experience, but that's part of life. I'm sorry to hear about the new boat not working, Ken. It looked like that was real promising. You guys were going to be finishing the game at sea, and I still think you probably will be doing that. But the cool thing with Unity, from what I've seen with Unity, is once you develop it on a platform, you pretty much can just push it out with maybe a little bit of the UI has to change for the handheld devices, but as far as the PCs and the Mac, and of course you put it out on Steam, and that takes care of a lot of the devices too. So I'm excited. I could have sworn I heard not that many years ago, it probably was a long time ago now, you swearing I'm never going to do another game. I'm done with this industry. I'm not doing it anymore. And that's why I was shocked when I saw that you were coming out with a new thing, and then I was super excited when I heard that you and Roberta were both doing it, because I know it's not one of you, it's both of you working together, that you guys have talents that play off of each other and do amazing things. King's Quest, I really can't think of anybody that I could say the name King's Quest to and they wouldn't know exactly what I was talking about. I could have sworn King's Quest was available on my old Atari 8-bit, but I guess it wasn't. I guess I had either moved over to my ST or PCs by the time I started playing King's Quest, but I can't wait. I'm sure, you guys don't be shy. You don't have to just use chat. Ask your questions to Ken. When I was promoting this, Ken, I got to say that 99.99% of the people were super excited and super positive. I had one troll that came out and kind of blasted the whole Chainsaw Monday thing, which was, a part of Sierra's history. And like the book goes in to say, your book says not all fairy tales have happy endings, and the company.
That was probably me, the troll, because nobody was unhappier on Chainsaw Monday than I was. That never should have occurred. That's I mean, always. It was the one thing I always said about Sierra was I wanted to create a company that would be around for my grandkids to enjoy, and I thought that it would be. It just never occurred to me that the new owners could screw up a company so much so fast. So
well, I mean, you had a passion, Ken, that a corporation really doesn't have. This was your child. This was your and Roberta's child, and you guys treat it differently than when corporations come in. I remember, in fact, when I worked there, the time period that I was there, I can't think of Rick Cadman would come through and tell everybody the day before, hey, we've got potential investors coming tomorrow, wear pants, wear shoes, wear appropriate clothing, basically. But other than that, it was a very lax, great environment. And I knew when corporations and board of directors and shareholders come in, things change, and they're all about the money, and that's what it was. And it was a sad day too. I was not living in Oakhurst at the time that happened, but I still had quite a few friends that were up there. It was a sad day, but it's something that corporate boards make the decision to do, and that's the way it is. And when I told this guy, I said, I posted the letter that you had wrote after Chainsaw Monday to the staff that you and Roberta wrote, and I posted that to him. He goes, I've already read that. I read that years ago. I said, well, why are you holding Ken and Roberta in such contempt when technically it wasn't Ken and Roberta's company then? That wasn't a decision, I don't think, that came from Ken and Roberta. and he shut up at that point. So, maybe that clicked, but I was just, my point was, I was glad to see that there's still so many fond memories of Sierra Online and such love for you guys and what you did for the community back in the late 70s and early 80s. And I think that's why I'm so super excited to see what you guys are working on. It's killing me to not know what you guys are doing.
Okay. Well, what questions are over here? I'm seeing them kind of scroll by on the right side of my screen. Somebody asked the simplest computer that we ever released a game on. I started working on the TRS-80 even before the Apple II. And Roberta took pity on me and bought me an Apple II for Christmas. And it was a big step forward. And then luckily they came out with the floppy drive. I don't know if people realize how primitive the early computers were, but suddenly, well, in fact, the original Apple II that I got only had 16K of RAM, and I had to upgrade it to 64K. And then they came out with the floppy drives, and that's kind of what saved me. On the TRS-80, I was working with a cassette tape, and imagine trying to code on a cassette tape and wait for it to load in. It was not fun. But and in those days, I mean, the biggest difference was there was no tools to help you write code. I mean, there was no animation editors, there were no there were no paint programs, there was no assembler. I stumbled on to Randy Hyde, who wrote an assembler called Lisa, or Liza, I guess he called it. And we used it to compile, but it was pretty clunky programming. I'm amazed when I look at the old games, what we were able to accomplish. I know it's pretty bad, but it was given the hardware we were given. I'm impressed with what our guys did. So
absolutely, and when you look at stuff like Unity now, you've seen the difference in how much simpler that makes your life.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I swore I'd never do a game, is I never wanted to work with a big team again. On Phantasmagoria, we had probably, 75 people that worked on the project. And, I just figured it was impractical for Roberta and I to ever do a game again, because you couldn't work without a big team. And I wanted no interest in a big team, especially in trying to raise money and fund development and do and in today's world, to do a really market competitive game is millions of dollars. And plus, money is easier than time. At some point in life, you got to have some time to have fun. And we like our life on a boat, and the idea of sitting still and going into an office every day and managing a team and trying to crank out a game would be no fun. But Unity, you can move pretty quick. I've actually been amazed. I wouldn't have thought that anything was practical with me and one other person, but and most of it being done from a boat in the middle of nowhere. And yet we're doing it. I think people will be happy with the game if they put it side by side with a $50 million project or something. Then they won't be too impressed. But if they look at it as kind of a fun, creative project that Roberta and I did, I think you're going to be blown away. And plus, ultimately, all that really counts is, are you having fun playing? And I do think we'll deliver on that. I see Peter up here has a question for me.
Peter?
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Peter, and I'm from Poland, and I'm also co-host of this meeting. And I would like to encourage other people to raise hands and ask questions. And my questions are: the first game was for what kind of computer?
Our very first game released was the Apple II, and it was a quick project. Roberta bought me the Apple II in December of '79, and by May of '80, I think, is when we released Mystery House, which was our first game. And that included doing the art and programming and everything. And it was, in fact, I'd started for the first few months, I was working on a compiler. I wanted to do Fortran for the Apple II. I had been in compiler development at a prior job, and so I just assumed that's what the world wanted. And when this little company Microsoft came out with Visual Basic and was doing, I don't think it was called Visual Basic in those days. It was probably just called Basic, and it was doing really well. And it looked like Microsoft might go places. So I figured, well, I'll compete with them and I'll do Fortran. But when I took my Fortran compiler to computer stores and would talk to them about it, and then I'd show them Roberta's little game, it was pretty apparent that everybody loved her game and hated my compiler. So we switched off and I started taking the game a little more seriously. At the beginning, I just did it to, I guess you'd say, to humor her. I mean, just to kind of, because she wanted it and thought it would be great. And it was. And that, so I dumped Fortran and did the game. And probably if I hadn't done that dumb move, we'd have been bigger than Microsoft today. And so maybe arguably I screwed up. We'll see.
So a lot of work was to bring to the market, or for your company, some kind of rapid development application, like today, for example, Unity, right? Something system to build more games on the one stack.
Your voice is coming through soft. Let's see, Gavin, you still there? Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, Peter, what was it you were saying? I was actually promoting Ken's new website and I wasn't paying that close of attention.
Oh.
What did you say, Peter?
I said that a lot of work was to build some kind of rapid development system to bring more games on the same stack.
Yeah, in the beginning, it was tough to build a game, and especially I even look at King's Quest VIII, which was one of the last games that we did, and was true 3D, and how much effort it was to do anything compared to Unity, where if I want to pop a 3D character on the screen and animate him, I just do it. I mean, it's done in minutes. It really is a different world now of game development compared to what we went through in the old days. And if we had today's tools to build the old Sierra games, it would be so much easier. I wish, but we'll see. And actually, if this game does well, you'll see more ambitious things. Even Roberta she's already kind of planning out what she'd do next. And I talked to, I can admit it, but I talked to Activision, who has the rights to a lot of our old games, about if this does well, can we start nibbling at some of the old series? Roberta kind of in the back of her mind would love to do another King's Quest game, or especially she'd love to do another Laura Bow game. She liked that character and that series that started with Colonel's Bequest, and would like to carry it on. So hopefully this first game will do well, and if people like it, and that's really the judge for me, is not even so how many copies are sold as whether or not people have a good time playing it. And if people have a good time playing it, then we'll just kind of roll from game to game and see where it goes. Probably cranking out one a year or something, but a lot's going to depend on, I'll move faster next time. I mean, some of this last 8 months was just learning Unity. It's deceptively easy at the beginning, in that, kind of at the end of the first couple of days of learning it, I had a character moving and, running around a track and collisions happening and jumping on and off of things. But then really to be using it effectively to do a professional quality game, I'd say, what I did over the last 8 months, I could have done in 2 months if I would have been starting today, with the knowledge that I have. There is a learning curve. So anyway, what other questions are over here? Laura Bow 2, Dagger, Bomb and Raw, one of my top 3 games ever. Thank you, Avi. What else does it say over here? I'm reading the questions. Gavin, your meeting, what would you like me to do?
Hey, I think Peter was trying to get at what game did you guys first develop using Sierra's proprietary game engine? When did you first come up with the game engine that actually started helping the game development at Sierra?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, because I came from my background prior to starting Sierra was doing compiler development, and I worked on a system that was really, when I saw VisiCalc, I thought they had ripped me off. We were doing tax returns for large companies, and it was before there was such a thing as spreadsheets. And I worked on something that was effectively a spreadsheet where we produced spreadsheets for different tax returns. And we're doing tax returns for big companies, including like General Motors, because they would have to file a return in all 50 states. So I put together a spreadsheet for them. And then when I guess it was Dan Bricklin did VisiCalc, I looked at it and I said, oh, it kind of ripped me off. But I came at this whole thing with the attitude of being able to build a system for building products. So when we did Mystery House, step one was to create tools for Roberta to be able to build the game without me, because I wanted her to, I always try to remove barriers between the creative person and the ultimate game so that her vision for the product would come through. So I wanted to give her tools so that she could develop the game while I could focus on the low-level stuff that had nothing really to do with the game. So our very first game, Mystery House, had a kind of a spreadsheet-based system for developing the game. She really would, she used something that today would have been called a spreadsheet that I put together to be able to type in room descriptions, type in inventory objects, type in if the player says this, what happens, what are the list of synonyms. She had a page where she put in all the synonyms. So Sierra was always a technology-based company, and even internally, we were structured with a tools group and in fact, I think there were three groups: a tools group, a compiler group, and then the game development group. And the game development group, they worried about developing the game, while the other two groups produced what today would have been like Unity. In fact, Roberta kind of pings me because she thought that when we sold the company, what I should have done was tried to hang on to SCI and sold it as a game engine and just kept evolving it. And had we continued to evolve SCI, or Sierra proprietary language, for another 25 years, we'd have probably been like Unity, except for that I would have missed the 25 years where we took our boat and went around the world and all those fun things. So
can't have both.
Hands up. I'll be quiet and see what questions people have. Sorry.
Okay, we got Jason. I'm going to take you guys in the order that you put your hands up. So we're getting a few of them. So Jason Cook, you had your hand up the longest. What do you got for us?
All right. Well, I don't really have any questions, but I just wanted to make a comment. I've been a long time fan, and the great thing about these games, I remember growing up playing them, and also, but my parents playing them too. So we'd play them as a family, we'd help each other out. And that was such a great experience. And the one thing I recently picked up your book and read it. It was such a great read. And I think the one thing is you yourself do not get enough credit for founding this company and keeping it afloat for 2 decades, especially when you look over that time period. It was a very tumultuous time for game companies. Right? Game companies come and go, and a lot of software companies come and go. And I think it was interesting seeing it, and where you make a lot of good decisions, where you said you didn't want to be known as a venture game company, but as a software company. And I think that decision was very wise in keeping that company afloat within the 90s and beyond, well, within the 90s. And it was very unfortunate too to see that you left this company in good hands with a lot of diverse products, only to have it like completely crumble. But it was a very, very fascinating read too. Yeah. And I have to say, one of my favorite stories from the book too is your recollection of the Spinnaker meeting where Roberta comes in and just completely slams the door on him. And the other comment I want to make too is it was very sad reading that towards the end of your company, you were saying that everyone was having the greatest time except yourself, which is part of your reason for moving away from it. But I just wanted to say that, I want to give you a lot of credit for founding this company and keeping it afloat to bring out these great games that everyone has cherished for so long.
Well, thank you. Yeah, the story about Roberta is, yeah, for those who haven't read the book, I mean, Roberta is a very strong personality and highly opinionated. And our investors at one point, when the video game market crashed, wanted to, how would I phrase it? They had a series of software investments, all of which failed. I mean, when the market crashed, it took everybody with it. We got caught with millions and millions of dollars of bad inventory. It was when Atari was burying ET cartridges out in the desert, literally. And the investors' philosophy was take all of the investments that they had and roll them into one company, and maybe there'd be something there. And they kind of looked around. They had a bunch of Harvard MBAs at Spinnaker, who they really kind of believed in their management, but their products weren't great. And Sierra, who had all these great products, but I, it's kind of a country boy, I guess you'd say, and certainly not Harvard educated. And so they thought, well, if we were to put the two together, maybe a great company would emerge. And but Roberta felt differently, and went into the meeting where they're trying to merge it. And definitely, you'd have to read the section of the book, but it's funny. I mean, she was definitely rude to everybody, saying, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but we're not doing anything. You've got this whole room full of financial people in coats and ties, and she shows up in her blue jeans to tell them to go away. And I
think what the best part, Ken, is when Roberta's 5'0", 4'9", 5'1". I mean, she's a very petite woman, and she comes in there in that room and just takes control of it from all these big men that's in a male-dominated industry. And love that.
She hasn't changed. She's and hopefully I'll get her in here at some point. I'll go see if she's up and about.
I hope so.
Anyway.
Hey, Eric, you've always got some good questions. How about you, Eric? What do you got for us?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, just I always think of Sierra Online back to the early graphics adventures. I mean, that's what I really associated with, because I was that age and that's what I was doing and really into them at the time. So that's immediately where my mind goes. And I was thinking back, Ulysses and the Golden Fleece, Mission Asteroid, Wizard and the Princess. I got my Mission Asteroid right here too, still. So, but I guess I was thinking back, and it was so innovative at the time, really, to, that was kind of a new format, the idea of kind of combining the graphics with the text adventure. There weren't that many other real contemporaries doing it at the same time yet. I was just curious if there was any, like Scott Adams, for example. I didn't know if there was any kind of relationship there, or if there were, across the industry there, because there were only a handful of others doing it at the time, right?
Yeah, no, it was a little industry in those days, and we all knew each other. We all kind of partied together. Events like CES were kind of rowdy. We'd all get together. I remember, I don't know, us and Broderbund and I don't know who all else. We went whitewater rafting together. Scott Adams I'd talked to quite a bit and was very supportive of him. At one point, I even distributed his products. And Roberta played through his games, thought they were great, but it was what really kind of told her that she wanted to add graphics. And because she liked them, but she wanted to be able to see and interact with it. And so, yeah, I mean, her progression, I guess you'd say, would be from playing the original text adventure that Microsoft had published, going on to going on through the Scott Adams games, and there were a bunch of them. I think there were like 12 or 15, and yeah, she played through most of those, and then started designing her own game and talked me into programming it. So that was the beginning of the company.
Oh, great. I didn't realize that you ever published any of his stuff. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, it was, I think I just called him and said, because I was going to be selling our game to computer stores. And I figured if I'm driving around going to computer stores, that was kind of what got us started as a publisher. Although I always thought of it as kind of a distraction. So once things really started going, I kind of split the company into distribution and our own products publishing. And a buddy of mine, a guy named Bob left, I sold him the distribution end of the business, which really meant that we took all the software for Scott Adams and a couple other companies out of my trunk and put it in his trunk. And because there were only like 8 computer stores in the US at the time, it was a pretty small environment at that time. So not much happening.
Okay, we've
the
got
other thing I was
Go ahead, Tim. I'm
oh
sorry.
no, I was just gonna make another comment. I would say it's more of a question, I think, for the group, but also during that period, again, I was 13 something, I don't know, but around that period and playing these games so much, my friend and I would just, we were like trying to get through and solve all these games, and so of course that's what we're thinking about all the time. I remember even my parents like wanting us to go fishing or do something, and we were like, well, we're going to take the Atari computer with us and hook it up in the cabin, because we have to keep working on this game. So I remember it being like super frustrating. Even then, my parents were already having to deal with that, like just getting the kid away from it. But you think back and you think about what we were occupying and obsessing over, though. We were trying to solve these puzzles, and I still think that was pretty good use of our time and our brains to be trying to solve these things. But one thing I remember going through there is I went through a period where it was almost like I was thinking in 2-word commands. Like in my brain, I was just thinking of everything as like get rock, open door, do this, do that, and I couldn't think any other way, So I don't know. I just wanted to know if anybody else found themselves like that way during that period where you couldn't even get out of thinking that way.
I think
my brain was working that way, like in 2-word commands constantly. In real life, I found myself thinking that way. So.
Yeah, I remember that. Remember, I learned what little French I learned using the French version of our games. So I would do the same thing. It would, everything's a verb and a noun with an occasional adjective. But the other guys, what was their name? Infocom, when they started doing games, that was where, the world could have been very different. They were doing really good games, and they had a infinitely better parser than us, but they never made the transition to graphics. They got sidetracked to go chase the business market. But their early games were really good and put a little scare in me. So. Oh well.
Was the PC Junior the first target for the AGI engine?
First target for AGI was the Apple II, and we went to SCI pretty quickly. I'm not sure what all games were developed on AGI. AGI, for those not familiar, was our first programming language, and it really wasn't. It went through, I guess, 3 steps. At first, it was strictly almost spreadsheet based. And then I did a version of it that was modeled more on Fortran, that was kind of a procedural language.
Yeah.
And then Jeff Stevenson, who worked for me, object-oriented languages were just kind of coming into vogue. In fact, they were just in universities at that point. I don't think there was any commercial software written using an object-oriented language. Jeff had learned about him in college and came to work for us. And he was kind of telling me about him, and I didn't get it at all. And so I remember him doing a simple little demo where he had a door, and he did the door as an object with properties and methods. And it was the first time I had ever seen object-oriented programming. And he wanted to completely throw away SCI or AGI that we had shipped a lot of successful games with, and build this object-oriented language that he was calling SCI. And he seemed a smart guy, and I took a chance and we went for it, and it turned out well. But when I look back at SCI and actually look at some code, it looks pretty primitive. But that was, it was 25 Actually, that would have been 35 years ago. That was a long time ago.
Well,
Oh.
it's kind of interesting what has happened in the intervening years, because believe it or not, there is a small but very active community of people who actually took and reverse engineered both AGI and SCI and wrote their own tools to do their own games based on the engine. That's how I kind of got into it. So we got to see how both of those engines actually worked, and yeah, the evolution to SCI was really quite nice. Much more complex objects, much more complex structures, but you really needed to have kind of it was much easier to get started doing things with AGI for sure. I don't know if you ever were thinking like if anybody was ever going to take and start hacking on those things many years later, but you know, it happened. And
I mean, cool thing. I saw some of the websites dedicated to AGI and SCI. I think those have kind of started dying out now that you know, the Unreal Engine and the Unity engine are there.
Yes.
People that want to get into gaming, it'd be smarter to go after those because
Absolutely.
they're really good engines. But yeah, for a while there, that was a big deal, was to reverse engineer our old development tools and build games with those.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad people did it, and yeah, I don't want to see all this stuff kind of lost to history forever. It was pretty cool for its time. You know,
as an aside, for sure. There's also a dedicated group of people that have actually completely reverse engineered. Well, there was a massive source code dump of all of Infocom's adventure game source code in the original Zork implementation language, and all of that has been completely archived, analyzed, and tools have been made to take and completely reconstruct those games, and new games are being written in it, and people are actually actively studying it. And yeah, I mean, in terms of what Infocom was doing at the time with their parsing and their world building, they were way ahead. ZIL is actually very object oriented long before the term actually ever existed.
Yeah, they were smart guys. They got sidetracked. They went into the business world and it took them south, just like us going into video games almost put us out of business. Yeah. And yeah, it's too bad. I'm surprised they didn't come back into the industry in some way. I have no idea what they're doing these days, but they were smart guys.
Yep.
So.
Hey, Ken, it's Barry Perkins.
Oh,
Gavin, go ahead.
Okay, guys, raise your hands if you want to ask questions, because I've got two guys that have been waiting here for quite a while that I'd like to get to. So if you can raise your hand, I'd appreciate it. Sasha, how's our friend in Germany doing? This is president of the Atari Users Group over in Europe.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you. We're doing fine. We just 2 weeks ago we launched our website, which was off for a time because of a hack attack, and I did change the way we organized the members. So the last 2 weeks, I'm only booking and accounting, all that stuff. But yeah, it's well accepted and it's back up again. And software competition and hardware competition is going to end in a few days. We got a lot of nice new entries. To let Ken know, there is still a community that every year creates new soft and hardware, and with the ABUC, the Atari Bitbutter User Club, which has members also in the US, we award prizes. So if you enter a game or whatever, they can win more than 500 euro for the winner. We just raised the prize. So it's an active community. But as I did not read your book, I have a non-technical question. When I grew up, by the end of 1982, I was like 10 years old and accidentally got hold of an Atari 8-bit. And then in school and family, big family, always the question was, when you are an adult, what do you want to do for a living? What is your goal to work at? And I was like little Sasha, like 10 years old, with a computer in 1982 in Germany. Nobody had a computer in my family. I said, I want to make money with using computers. And everybody was like, we need a psychiatrist. This guy is crazy. So how did you get in contact with computers at all? And how did you get into founding Sierra Online? So was it that you wanted to code and said, this is what I like, I want to make a living with that? Or did you really see kind of a business model?
Well, I got out of school early. One thing, I'm not, I've been around computers a long time, but I'm not that old, or I don't consider myself that old. I'm 66. But I got out of high school, I guess, at 15 and into college, and was majoring in physics, and took one. Well, actually, in high school, we had done some school trip to see UCLA, and they had a computer there that was actually a terminal to a mainframe someplace else, and I was able to type for a couple of minutes on the keyboard. I remember this goes back a ways. I mean, I remember I was like in my second year of college before I saw my first pocket calculator. So it was pretty prehistoric times. And but I knew immediately. I mean, the second I saw a computer, I said, this is it. This is what I want to do with my life. That I liked the machine. And so when I went into college, one of the things that I wanted was just access to a computer. And at the local college, they had a computer, and I kind of went crazy with it, running all kinds of programs. But then Roberta got pregnant, and suddenly I had to earn a living. I couldn't just be going to school. And I started working, and we borrowed some money from her dad so that I could go to a programming school. There was actually kind of a 9-month programming school, and called Control Data Institute. And I went to it mostly just so I could get computer time. In those days, I mean, there were no personal computers, so you didn't have anything at home. You had to go someplace where you could feed a card deck into a reader and write programs. And so I was, I had always had big boxes of cards I was carrying around, and you would load them in at the college into a reader, and then you'd have to wait a few hours, and back would come a printout, and that was your program. So you talk about old days. My first programming was on a key punch machine. So I've kind of got to see the industry go from nowhere to somewhere. And and I still don't consider myself, I guess I gotten older, but I don't know. For going back that far, it does seem weird when I remember it and what my career started as. But no, love of computers from the first time I saw them. Always knew that's what I wanted to do, and just managed to, by doing that trade school, get a job with Burroughs programming computers, and they were a hardware company back in those days. And then I started contract programming for everybody in the Los Angeles area. I just started billing. I don't know what I was billing in those days, but anybody that would call me, I'd go over and help them program their computers. And so I worked for McDonnell Douglas and Children's Hospital of LA. I worked for a mortuary. I worked for Fredericks of Hollywood. I worked for everybody in Los Angeles, and would work my day job, and then after work go work for everybody else. And then always, though, with the goal of getting out of Los Angeles, we had this vision, because we had little kids, and we thought LA was kind of a big scary place, and our dream was always to move to Yosemite and raise our kids in the woods. And so I was always trying to think of some company we could start or something we could do. And today everybody can work at home, but in those days you couldn't. And so, there was, and so part of why we started Sierra was nothing more than we wanted to raise our kids up in the woods, and had been trying to do that for years and years and years. And suddenly Sierra gave us a way to do it. And so we moved up to Yosemite and literally had a log cabin and lived in the woods and lived happily ever after kind of thing. So don't know if that answers a question. Sorry to ramble.
Yeah, thank you. That's really awesome. I like that story. You go there to raise a kid in the woods, and that's way before my childhood. Very, very
Oh, yeah.
nice.
Well, the picture from Sockport was shot at our house. That was our hot tub. And that was
Popcorn.
Yep.
Yep, that was that was our hot tub at our house, and it was redwood, and it would I remember for the first few months it would turn you red when you were at it because the wood would leach, and we hadn't realized that when we built it, but oh well. But it worked out good. That was a great house, and then that house actually burnt down a few years later, and to the ground. It took all of our personal photographs. I mean, it was kind of bad, and that Roberta and I had been in San Francisco, and there was a babysitter in the house with the kids, and we kind of got the call in San Francisco. She had gotten the kids out, but the house went to the ground. And the kids had only their pajamas, and Roberta and I only had the clothes on our backs. And it was just such a weird feeling to have nothing. I mean, really, literally nothing. We had the kids in their pajamas, and that was it. So, but
that was a tragedy. I remember that. That was a very famous fire up on Mudge Ranch Road.
Oh, were you in the town at the time?
Oh, I moved to Oakhurst in 1976. So
Wow.
yeah, I was there a long time. I mean, I was pretty young at the time, but I definitely remember it. We've got our next one. Sasha, are you good now? Sasha?
Yeah.
Hi.
You good? Okay. Next, we've got Chris, who's the CEO of a Retro Vibe. So, Chris, go ahead. You've been holding a long time, my friend. Go ahead and
Hi,
ask.
Chris.
Chris, we don't hear you.
We don't hear you.
Just unmute yourself.
Hey, there he is.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris.
Nope. Still no Chris.
Well, he's talking. I can see.
Yeah, but we're not hearing. The lips are moving. Anybody can read lips?
Yeah, let's do some Chris karaoke.
Okay, he's off mute. Chris, we can't hear you.
Well, Ken, real quick, I've got a question that somebody asked on YouTube. Well, wait, Chris, just butt in whenever you get that mic working. I've got somebody on YouTube that's asked a question, and they apologize for their lateness. So if they missed it, perhaps you may have already shared this, but I don't think you have. They're asking, what do you think on modern games? What do you think they're doing well with, and where do you think that they're kind of lacking in?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go. We'll save that question until later. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm yeah, really sorry. So first of all, Ken, I wanted to say you're a hero. I'm very happy because I was growing up with your games, and it's amazing to have a chance to talk to you right now. So that's the first thing.
Thank you.
The second, it was amazing to actually be able to read a book on the history of the company I was really a big fan of, especially with the double sort of tap with Sean Mills' book coming at a roughly similar time frame. Sean Mills' book on Sierra. So it was very exciting to see kind of both sides of the story with transparency that you probably don't get with a lot of companies right now. So this is just the beginning of what I wanted to say. But the second part is I'm actually now working at Retro Vibe, which is a gaming publisher. And although I believe anyone can learn everything from you when it comes to games publishing, are you even considering going a publisher route or working alongside some publisher at some point in the future on your games?
Yeah, that's a good question. I should know the answer to it. I've seen a lot of projects fail when people start thinking too far into the future.
Yeah.
Like my kid worked for a game company, Chris, and he was working for this company. I remember them not even having the game running yet. And the CEO was running around showing everybody pictures of what the stuffed animals were going to look like. And it didn't surprise me when the company kind of crashed and burned. I mean, at this point in the project, I'm really trying to have blinders on and just focus on building a great game. And yeah, and there's another whole step where I want to watch people play the game and see if they're having fun. And if they're not, then I want to keep developing. And I don't know. Yeah, I really haven't figured out how I'm going to publish it, and just try to force myself not to think that far. That's even like Steam. I started to go to Steam and sign up as a developer. And then I said, no, I don't want to do that. I just really don't want any of that yet. I just want to see if I can't get the game done. If people like playing it, and if people like playing it, getting a publisher is going to be easy. And if they don't, then it's a good thing I didn't waste somebody's time with my crappy game. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there'll come a point, and I've got enough contacts still in the industry that getting a meeting is not hard. And actually, I mean, I guess it's good to be me, or to have my reputation, because I have no trouble getting called back from people and being able to get meetings. So when it comes time to have a publisher, I'm not worried about it. You know, at this point, the focus is build the game, get the darn thing running, and hope people like it. So long answer to a short question, sorry.
No, so fingers crossed. I'm really looking forward to it and can't wait to play it, Ken. So thank you very much.
Oh, we ran everybody out of questions.
Well, we still had that one from the YouTube person that asked what your opinion on modern games are. And
yeah, you know,
what they're doing bad.
I'm embarrassed to admit that I haven't the vaguest idea what's happening in the modern game world. That you could list the top 10 games, and I'd be absolutely positive I haven't played any of them. I was never really a gamer, and nor was Roberta. I mean, other than the original adventure games she played. And at Sierra, I kind of had a strategy of telling our people not to play competitor games. It always felt wrong to me. I didn't want them to do that. I wanted, and I refused to hire anybody that had worked for a competitor. I liked that we were up at Yosemite and we were kind of doing our own thing and inventing our own stuff, and not, you know, because what can happen is people start looking over, you know, company A has a hit, so company B tries to build a game that does what company A does better than company A did it. I mean, that's really, I mean, if you follow that train of thought, sooner or later, then everybody's kind of doing the same game and just trying to compete with each other on who can do it better. I really wanted, and even at Sierra, I broke Sierra into, well, we were broken into like 12 pieces or something like that. You know, I had a development center that just did racing games. I had a development center that just did card games. I mean, it was, we had Impressions in Boston who just did, I don't know what you'd call them, kind of board game style games. And I really wanted, I wanted to avoid the Me Too-ism that, you know, I haven't been around the industry in 25 years, but I'd be willing to bet they're still producing games that look an awful lot like Doom from 25 years ago, where people run through and try to kill things and shoot at them. And that's, you know, I like the days of Sierra where we'd try to go do completely different things that nobody had done before. I mean, when we did the Sierra Network, it was, God, I don't know, 3 or 4 years before anybody had heard of the internet. And yet we had 10,000 people on playing games and doing flight simulators. And it was, that was, you know, at Sierra, that was the one thing we used to always say was that, you know, leaders lead and followers follow. And our role as the industry leader was to lead. And that we had to figure out where the industry was going, or where we thought it was going to go, and build games there. And we were right more often than we were wrong, I guess. So
it definitely worked, Ken. You guys always had unique stuff, and I can attest that it seems like a lot of the game companies and the games nowadays are all the same thing. They're all one version of a first-person shooter, a Doom, and it gets extremely tiring. That's what I loved about your games, is they were strategy, and you had to apply some brain cells to it. You just weren't pulling a trigger and blowing everything away in front of you. So kudos to you. And I think you hit it right on the head, where these companies, they're seeing what other companies produce that's a hit, and they're just copying it, putting different skin on it, and selling the same thing. So definitely kudos to you. And I see you got Jeff with his hand up. Jeff, knock yourself out there, buddy.
Hi, Ken. I don't know if you remember my folks, Dave and Sally Chambers.
Sure.
Anyway, they just finally sold their boat and had to stand on land now. And I was curious, what boat are you guys enjoying life in now?
I'll do 30 seconds on boating. We, it's funny that I got a second 15 minutes of fame as a boater. When people stop us on the street and say, "You're Ken Williams," I think because of the mustache or something, because I'm tall and Roberta's short, but we get recognized a lot. And then I have to try to play a guessing game to figure out if they know us from our boating days or from our computer game days. And it could be either. For a while there, we were crazy well known as boaters because I wrote 4 or 5 books on boating. We took a little boat, 62 feet, went around the world in it. And although we upgraded kind of halfway through to a 68-foot boat, and now we're back to a 60-foot boat. I know somebody's posting the links to my books. I don't endorse those books. My writing has gotten better over time, but we did. I mean, we took a little boat. I got a captain's license. I got both a U.S. and European license, and we had a boat called a Nordhaven that's very rugged. And we crossed the Bering Sea with it, and we crossed the Atlantic, and we ran, like we did a 6,000-mile trip from Seattle to Japan. And went across the Bering Sea, and we went some crazy places like Adak and Attu and all these islands up in the Aleutians that nobody goes to. Roberta is the adventurer in the family. I mean, she is a history nut, and I should probably do 30-second plug for her book. It's really kind of the history of Ireland that she's doing, and when she's not working on the game with me, she's working on book 2 of that series. Where she's kind of tracking what happened but she's a history nut. She reads everything historical, and she wanted to go visit all these places, so we took a boat and did it. And but that's it. I mean, we crossed kind of most oceans. Well, I guess we crossed the Pacific, the Atlantic. Did not do the Indian Ocean. I cheated and shipped the boat from Turkey to or from Hong Kong to Turkey, because at the time there were a bunch of pirates that were bugging attacking the small boats. So we cheated that little bit, but other than that, we kind of went around the world and had a lot of fun doing it. So
awesome. Thanks, Ken. Yeah, those Nordhavens are wonderful boats.
No, we've shifted though. Now we have a company called Grand Banks was been around for a while boating, and they effectively went out of business and were acquired by a company out of Australia called Palm Beach that made fast kind of cruising boats that are also very seaworthy. They have pretty rough seas over in Australia and New Zealand. And they had a boat, they brought out a boat called the Grand Banks 60, which we went around the world mostly at 8 knots, which is about, 8.5, 9 miles an hour. So crossing an ocean, you can imagine, takes a while. And but the new boat is a 30-knot boat, nice and fast. And anybody curious about it can go to kensblog.com, which is my blog, and be horribly bored if you're not into boating. But we enjoy it. It's something to do, and it's problem solving. In order to run a boat across an ocean, I suddenly had to become a diesel mechanic, a electrician. I have a master's marine mechanic or a marine electrician license. I'm also you need electronics, you need navigation, you need diesel repair, generators. It's a big deal. But the computers are a lot more fun. I'm enjoying just writing a game. So that's sorry. Back
Thanks,
to
Ken.
games and computers.
So Ken, it's making me think. You're in the theater room right now. Is this where you do your development?
Yep.
Is it-
If you could see, this is my office. Although I've also got an office on the boat, and Roberta's got an office over in the next room. And actually, what I can do is Belle, since things seem to be slowing for a few minutes, I'll go see if I can get her to come on for a few minutes. So
Yeah, please. I'd love to see Roberta.
I'll let you guys chat amongst yourselves. I'll go see if I can drag her in here, see if she's up and at 'em yet. So I'll be back.
Okay. Hey, if any of you guys have any other questions for Ken, that'd be a good time to raise the hands and get them. I'm very happy that he's been willing to give us this much time. I really didn't think we'd get this much time out of him, so this has been kind of a big bonus. But if any of you guys have some questions, please let us know. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty excited. I wish we could get more out of him what this new game is, especially with Roberta working on it, because she is a creative mastermind when it comes to developing games. So. Oh, good. We got some more hands coming up. Like to see that. And Harry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Do you still have a question you want to ask him?
No, I just want to remind him of the first time he came in with the Wizard and the Princess. And back then, he was so proud of getting the graphics to fit on a disc, And
well,
I was looking.
That was the cool thing back in the day. Was I remember with my short time with Sierra Online, it was always how much can we cram onto as few diskettes as we possibly can cram onto it. And that was back when programmers really had to write lean code. I mean, nowadays with engines like Unity and Unreal and the rest of it, it's such bloated code. It takes.
Yeah, he was so proud of having all those graphics on a single disc. Him and Roberta had come into the store and they were showing me, and I'm like, okay. And I had that attitude that you're going to be able to do so much more in the future, And now I look at it, and you're right. It is bloated, and game mechanics. I think who was the guy that did Frogger? John Harris. He was so into game mechanics. I don't think he ever released the game Bankster because he could never feel satisfied with the control on the game. And I remember seeing it in multiple versions because he would come in on a regular basis. And he never got it done because he wasn't satisfied. And it's kind of weird. Oh, there he is.
Well,
He's
Roberta
back.
will be here in a minute. So.
Hey, Ken, it's Harry Perkins. I used to work at Boots in Fresno. You guys would come in on a regular basis.
Oh.
And I was sharing with the fact that you brought in Wizard and the Princess. And you were so proud to get all those graphics on a single disc.
Yep.
Yep. And it was hilarious because my attitude was, oh, you're going to do so much more in the future. So it was kind of funny. But then years later, when my daughter started getting into video games, she used to play Police Quest over and over and over again. And she almost had a job at Valve. Instead, she went into archaeology to teach down at UC Riverside. But she's still into computers. And when she heard that you were going to be on, she was really interested in knowing what kind of projects you're working on, just because she's very into some of the technology to use for archaeology, like the 3D flyovers with LiDAR and stuff like that. And all that happened because she used to love playing these Sierra Online games on my computer. I have pictures of her when she was a little baby playing on Olivetti AT&T computer. So it was kind of neat. And you would come in on a regular basis. You guys would buy one of those AT&T Target Vision cards to do graphics development. I remember the Black Cauldron. I'd come up and visited you guys, and I was surprised at the dress code.
Very cool.
But yeah, it was really interesting. And Gavin knows. He's been to my office, and he knows my obsession with old 8-bit computers because I have quite a collection, but I don't think as many as he does, though. So
look who's here. Look who's here. We got Roberta.
Okay,
Yay.
I'm going to step aside for a few minutes, let her say hi since I already did. Here,
Yes, I'm here.
It's nice to see you, Roberta. It has been several decades since my eyes have laid on you, and I am so excited to see this new thing that you guys are working on.
Yeah, well, I don't know what Ken told you, but my lips
Not
are
much.
sealed. No.
He hasn't told us much.
Wait, he's leaving the room. Okay, he's gone.
I was about to take my dog out for a walk, so you got me just right before I left.
Well, it's good to see you, Roberta. Like I said, we're super excited. I was also super excited to see you finish that book that Ken was talking about a year ago that you had not finished yet.
No,
so
thank you.
That's next up. It's next on my reading list, and I hear you're working on a version 2 of that book now.
Well, in between everything else, so it may be it just as long getting done as the first one, but trying to get to it whenever I can.
Well, you guys have a nice enjoying time on boats and get to travel and relax, and you know, you both work so hard. That's why I told Ken. I remember years ago Ken saying, "I will never do another video game again," and you know, we get the news of this secret project, and then we hear that Roberta's involved in it too, and we all got really excited. So,
yeah, well, I just did an interview yesterday, and I was explaining how I pulled Ken away from a project he wanted to do back at the beginning when I first did Mystery House. I got him away from his Fortran project and onto mine, but this time he started this, and he's pulling me away to get involved on this one. So I guess we're constantly doing that to each other.
well, that's good, but that's because you guys make such an amazing team. I mean, your creativity and his technical abilities, you guys can't go wrong with that. So, like I said, I'm a big old fanboy. You know, I met you back when I was a little kid, and my dad, in fact, I'm going to put it on the screen real quick. My dad is the one that did some of these early game covers for you guys back in Oakhurst.
Oh.
So that's when I first met you guys was about the time of Cranston Manor. I think that came out before Threshold because Cranston Manor was the first one he did for you guys. And that's when I became a fanboy. And, you know, I worked for you for a little while. Big Bad Rick fired me because I was a smart ass teenager at the time. And so rightfully so.
We all were.
But like I said, I've been a fan of you guys. I've followed you guys for a long time. I got to reconnect with Ken last year at the Vintage Computer East show.
There he is. I'm just looking at
Oh, he
him.
dropped off.
No.
What happened?
Gavin's locked up. He must have
Oh.
bad internet.
Somebody's locked up.
I'm locked up.
I don't know.
Yeah, he shouldn't use
It's
Zoom
frozen.
with FujiNet.
You frozen, Berta?
No, it's me
Looks
that's
like-
frozen.
Oh.
There you go. You're back.
No, I think it's my kids are all.
Kids are playing games online.
Yeah. We're streaming some multiple videos.
Oh, is that what it is?
It's amazing what technology has allowed you to do.
What it can and can't do.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I promised Roberta she'd only have to be
Yeah.
here for a minute. So
Yeah, I was on my way out. So, well, it was nice to see you. I'm sure as this thing we're doing.
well, somebody has their hand up, whoever Jason Cook is. They could answer a question for him.
What?
Oh,
Jason.
hello. I'm a
Good
big
word,
fan of the King's Quest games. Very nice to talk to you guys. I have two quick questions. Did you save any of your development documents or maps or anything from when you were making these games back in the day? And when you were doing the original King's Quest, when you set up that deal with IBM, did you guys plan to make multiple games with this engine, or were you just hoping this one would take off and go from there after that?
Well, to answer the second question, when we developed King's Quest originally, it was meant to start a whole new series and a whole new type of adventure game, because I mean we just completely rewrote the engine, the adventure game engine from AGI to SCI, which Ken could say exactly what those acronyms are saying, like adventure game interpreter and
Silly, crappy.
or silly, crappy. Anyway,
Sierra Creative Interpreter.
Sierra
That is
Creative.
what we
Anyway,
decided it was.
yeah, our prior adventure games were all the first person static graphic games, and King's Quest was the first with actual animation, and not only that, but third person with a little character you can walk around, and much more colorful, and just, you know, sound and music and everything so much better. So King's Quest really was going to start a whole new brand of adventure games for Sierra, and it did. That's what it did. I forgot the first question.
Oh, the first one is, when you're making these games, you'll probably do like, you know, write-ups and draw maps and all this. Did you save any of that documentation?
Right. Not as much. Well, yeah, not as much as you would think. You know, at the time, a lot of, especially my stuff, was just done on pieces of paper, and just, I mean, I scribbled and drew and had maps and had notes and had things all over the place. And that was in the days, you know, before we had a lot of computer tools for people to use. Like now, I mean, we've got so many things we can download on our computer, that we can save our files easily, and I do now. But back then it was just kind of just all over the place, just drawings and everything. So some of them just got lost, some of them just got thrown away. But I did save quite a few, and most of those, I believe, are in the Strong Museum.
Okay, well, great.
I have run across a few things in my desk, and here, you know, now and then I go, oh my gosh, look at this. But basically, if you want to see, for the most part, what I saved and what a lot of Sierra saved is in the Strong Museum.
Okay, thank you.
It's in upstate New York.
It's Rochester.
I think so. I'm not sure. We've never been there.
Well, I know you would think it's in there,
We
but
shipped in pallets of stuff.
lots of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, lots of stuff.
I've got a question for you, Roberta. You were kind of a pioneer back in the day in a male-dominated industry. You know, the computer industry back in the late 70s, early 80s was definitely a male-dominated industry. And you made such a mark in that industry. Do you have any advice for young ladies that maybe, you know, are thinking about trying to get into the technology and game industry that might help them in their future?
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely, it's true. When I started, I was among a very few. For today's world, I do believe that there are beginning to be a lot more young ladies and women in the high tech industry. I really do. I think they're actually doing pretty well these days. I mean, could they do better? Yeah. I think you just have to be dedicated. I think that too many people still think that the high tech industry is just filled with programmers, that you have to know how to program. In fact, we have a daughter-in-law who is in the process of taking programming classes. You know, when I ask her, I say, so do you like it? You know, I think she's learning, is it JavaScript?
Well, now she's learning
Right
JavaScript.
now, yeah, and then Python. She just
Python,
learned
right.
Python, and now JavaScript. And I ask her, I said, well, do you like it? Do you like programming? And she'll say, well, you know, I don't know if it's for me. But our son is a software engineer, and he's very, very good at it. So he's sort of encouraging her. But I can see that they think, our son and daughter-in-law think, that she needs to learn how to program in order to get into the, you know, just basically the high-tech industry in general. And I tell her, yeah, you know, learn some programming. It won't hurt you. Even if you feel it's not for you and it's not that much fun for you, it's just not you. Is I know I learned programming early on too. I did some college classes before Sierra Online in COBOL, and actually got a job programming in COBOL for Lowry's Foods as a beginning programmer, and I didn't really like it. It didn't feel like me. And I think maybe, I mean, I don't know, maybe, well, I'm not going to go there. Anyway, but I think I think it helped me though, by knowing how to program COBOL, even in a, not in a very good way. You know, I wasn't very good. I will never say I was, but I did learn a lot of the basics of programming and how computers work, because I did that. And our daughter-in-law is doing that now. And I tell her, you know, do it. Just because you learn how to do it, and, you know, whether you're really good at it or you don't really like it that much, or maybe you decide, I don't want to be a programmer. The fact that you know at least some of it is very helpful. And it will help you in so many other ways in the high-tech industry that you can't, you may not understand at this moment. But when you, but programming, learning at least a little bit of programming helps you understand computers and how they relate, how they work, how they're organized internally and all this, so that if you work on designs like I did for complex games or graphics or wherever you head next, or website design, you'll have a greater understanding. So I would say to young women and young men, learn some programming, and even if you don't really like it, and that'll give you like basics. And then from there, but it gives you a really strong understanding of computers at the very least. And then you go from there and decide, there's so many myriad ways that you can go into the high-tech industry. And just
awesome. Well,
yeah,
maybe your son and daughter-in-law will be the next Ken and Roberta. Maybe they'll team up and
you never know. You never know. Yeah, actually our son is really into board games. He loves board games. And I said to them, you know, maybe they would be a good team to get together and create a new board game. You never know how it could work out.
I thought I read something a couple of years ago. It may have been on Ken's blog, but wasn't he looking at doing a game at one point? I could have sworn I read something that Ken had posted about your son working on a.
What?
Chris. He
Chris.
was working on a game company.
Yeah, a long time ago. Oh yeah, it was Brand X. It was, God, I forgot what was it about, gardening or something?
No, it was a fantasy. It was done at the same time. Farmville, I think.
Farmville. It was it was something like Farmville. He was working on a game similar to that, but it didn't really go.
Bombed.
Yeah, bombed. Although
they ran out of money.
They ran out of money. Yeah, he wasn't the designer. He was just not. I hate to say just a programmer. He was programming, but he wasn't. He was doing the what?
He did all the head end. He did all the server side.
Server stuff. Yeah, he was doing the more complex code for it, but he wasn't the designer. And I remember being dragged into it a little bit and trying to help them rethink the design, but they ran out of money, and that was that.
That happens quite often.
Yeah.
Mike, you've got a quick question? Mike?
Yes, a couple questions. First, I think this is great. I've been a huge Sierra fan as a kid. I'm now a systems administrator. So, but a lot of I started as a kid of games, and that grew into kind of an IT career. It's funny you mentioned Rochester, New York. That's where I live. So I'm very familiar with the Strong Museum. I believe it's probably the only museum dedicated to games that I know of. So it's within 10 minutes from me. So I just have a quick question. So a lot of people love the King's Quest series. I was a Space Quest guy. The Adventures of Roger Wilco. I laughed then. I've been replaying 1 through 6 now, and they make me laugh as much then as a kid. I was just curious, do you still speak with any of the old programmers, mainly like the two guys from Andromeda, Scott Murphy and Mark Crow, anymore, or is this kind of gone your separate ways?
Well, I think we've all gone our separate ways for the most part. We still, Ken and I both, we still stay in touch with some of the people that moved up to Seattle, but they did not. The two guys They did. They went. Let's see. Scott stayed in Oakhurst, I believe. Although I don't really know.
I think he went back east.
Did he go back
somewhere.
east? I don't know.
Yeah.
And Mark, did they
He
move
went
to
UG,
yeah, I was gonna say Oregon. Yeah. So I haven't seen Mark since we moved to Seattle, I think. Although I know we saw Scott a few years ago. But we're real close with Al Lowe.
Okay,
And yeah, very close, actually, very good friends. But no, I have to say, I mean, it's been over 20 years. And we did for a while. And then as, life goes on and, you go your separate ways. And the other thing is that Ken and I have spent the last 12 years or so, maybe not the last couple of years, but 10 years from like 2008. Well, it was more before that, like 2002, maybe 2004.
Yeah.
2004 to 2015, traveling the world, circumnavigating in a boat. So we were gone a lot. I don't know if Ken talked about that part
I did.
of our lives. Yeah. So we were gone a lot. I mean, we've just really gone off in all these different directions. So sorry that that's the answer.
Oh no, but thank you. I was just curious if some of the old crew still talk and whatnot. But I also have a Vive and I have VR, and so I'm looking forward to the future game that you guys are producing.
Well, it's interesting. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye. Okay.
We're going
I got
for
my
a walk.
coffee.
Okay.
So
Bye-bye.
actually, somebody just Ken sent me coffee cup, which I should have used for today, but I'm running out of things to say, Gavin. So unless you got something, I'll say goodbye and wish everybody well.
Ken, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, I just looked like I was locked up again. I really want to thank you for taking this time, Ken. I know you didn't anticipate spending 2 hours of your morning with us, and I had a feeling we might suck that time out of you if you gave it to us. So I really appreciate it, Ken. I think you've seen by the reaction of people here that you guys meant a great deal to most of us, and that we're super excited to see what you guys come up with next. I can't tell you how excited I am about it. So we really want to thank you for taking this time, Ken. If there's anything I can do in the future to help you, you've got my contact information. Please let me know. I'd be happy to spread the word about anything you need word spreading about. So, and thanks for grabbing Roberta. It was great to see her come in. And again, Ken, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for having me.
so much.
Much appreciated. I'll see you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, you guys, he gave us a lot longer than I thought he was going to give us. When I had first talked to him, he said, I can come spend a few minutes with you. He said, I'm not much of a chatter. I'm not much of a, he doesn't want to talk that much, but I'm glad he was able to do that. I think whatever they're working on is going to be pretty awesome. I know Roberta has got a mind like no other when it comes to coming up with these ideas. So I'm super excited. I don't know about you guys, but anything else you guys want to talk about, or are we good to go? You guys got any ideas for our next meeting, who we can have and what we can talk about?
Why don't you try to get Al Lowe, or did you already?
Al's one I'll reach out to. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years. I figured Ken would be the first one, and I know Al left Fresno a while ago and is now up in the Pacific Northwest with those guys, but Al would be an interesting one. He's kind of a jokester, and I think he might be a lot of fun to talk to. I've enjoyed all of his games, but like I said, I'm hoping October we can get Nolan Bushnell here. And I know for you Atari fans, that would be a fun one to have. And I've actually thought about reaching out to Steve Wozniak too, to see if he'd be interested and willing to come and chat with some of us. But like I said, I love having these things. I love hearing what's going on in the community. We definitely did a lot of FujiNet, and we can still talk about FujiNet. We can talk about Sasha, you finally got that damn box. Oh my gosh, trying to send 50 boards to Germany was a lot of fun. Let me tell you, I am glad to see that. I was going to ask you if you got that box, so that's good to see that you guys have those.
Yeah, I thought I have told you, but I was so darn busy this week. So I hope to start some soldering tomorrow. But actually, I also sell some naked boards because there are already people who want to build it into their computers or into XELs, whatever. And I guess I have to do the next order soon.
Yeah, let me know. It's been hard getting some of the components. The ESPs for some reason have been difficult to find, but yeah, you and your orange.
Take orange Fujinet, of course.
Based on friends and people that I know in the industry, so to speak, the availability of parts has been an interesting issue because of the worldwide semiconductor shortage. But they're expecting the channel to be filled back up with parts no later than the spring of 2022. I don't know how this will affect pricing, but we will see.
Well, the pricing has definitely increased a little bit in the components over the last few months. And the availability, I was just able to place another order. I'm getting 75 more, the components for 75 more units that I should have next week. But the ESPs, the ones that I'm going to have to actually break down and start buying are.
Oh, we're losing you, Gavin.
Yep. We lost you, Gavin.
No, altogether.
Lost in Fuji space.
He started to play King Quest.
Wow, Gavin just fell right.
Guys, we have.
How many people here are using the FujiNet? What a number!
Well,
Has anyone done any emulation of 80 columns besides the software, like with the actual?
Well, that's an interesting issue. Now, I don't know quite how to answer that one because there's a couple of different ways you can go there. Of course, you've got you have the software emulations. You have VBXE for those who are lucky enough to have them, and other than that, if we had some more IO space on the ESP32, we could actually do it there, but we don't. We're using everything. All the pins are being used right now. So
I've taken my Atari 800 and put a Sophia 2 in there, and using the emulation and with DVI out, get decent video for like 80 column word processing. Like that. So that's how I've been using it. There you are, you're back.
Yeah, Gavin just kind of fell off the face of the earth there for a moment.
Nope, not again.
No, he just went there. He's fine.
Got to get his kids to stop streaming video.
Wow.
Hey, Gavin, I was asking a question about is anybody using the 80 column for the FujiNet? Since I'm for some reason obsessive with the idea of trying to write something. Actually, my daughter, who's working on a doctorate, wants to use an old machine. Oh yeah, okay. He's gonna sell me. You have his. Yeah, I know. I saw his 80 column. How's that work with? I forgot the name of the guy in England who's written that word processor, the ultimate word processor, whatever. Does that work with that? Do you know that 80 column driver?
It hasn't been tested. I don't know. It's worth the test. You're talking about the last word. You're talking about John Halliday's last word.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. Honestly, for that, it's designed ultimately to be used with the Sparta-DOS X console drivers. It might work.
Right.
See what happens. Like I said, just see what happens. If it works, then great. We'll let everybody know it works. If it doesn't,
I'll have Gavin, because Gavin's been in my office. I'm obsessive about computers. Now he's one up on Macintosh, but he came in to do some work for our company. Saw my obsessive collection of these computers. So, and one of the things is I have my Fuji nets, and I've just been so busy with the regular computer work that I do every day that I haven't played with the 8-bit stuff, even though I'm sitting literally 2 feet away from my very Sophia, and I modded machines and all sorts of stuff.
Is it just me that's cutting out, or is Harry really having some audio issues?
He's having audio issues.
Okay. Yeah, Harry, we can't hear you.
Headset. Here, let me take these off. Maybe that'll be better.
So it must be Fresno's
It's the
internet.
headphones.
I'm breaking up a little bit over here too. I had some video problems earlier.
Okay.
It seems to be better. Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was me or if it was you. But...
I can't find my real headphones. I got these cheap ones from China, and microphone audio is terrible on it. So, yeah, I was just talking about the FujiNet because, I just don't have enough time to play with all that stuff. And you came along and walked in the office one day, and I was just like, oh, somebody that is actually doing something with those things. So I'd love to spend time.
I just actually started playing with the FujiNet and asked Tom. I was driving him nuts this week, asking him stupid questions. The only thing I've done with the FujiNet up until this last week was build them and test them by downloading an image, putting an image on an SD card, booting it, making sure it all ran. But this week is the first week I've actually started using it because I had a little bit more time while I'm waiting for parts. And the more I use it, the more I love it. And I'm hoping to.
Well, I'll have to glean information from you, Gavin, because I've got those 3 or 4 that I have, and I just haven't had time to really play with them. But my daughter wants me to give her one of my Ataris with one of the FujiNets so that she can actually do word processing. She's actually thinking of writing her master's thesis on an 8-bit computer with a dot matrix printer and turning it in and see what they think of it.
I think it's a cool idea.
I think it's funny. She's so into the retro stuff as much as me. It's hilarious. But she's working on some state-of-the-art stuff with LiDAR and 3D imaging and all this stuff, and even the stuff for the archaeological scanning of objects that she's working on. And I think, why are you interested in this old technology? But she has good memories of it. Like playing Police Quest and all these things. And that's what makes her go back. I think that's true of all of us, that we have these really good memories of
Absolutely.
when we were growing up and having that fun and literally being obsessed with playing a game for, 12 hours. I remember one time I played a game from Friday evening all the way to Sunday night. And then finally I said, I have to go to bed and got to go to work in the morning. So
I think that's most of us. There's this nostalgic feeling about it, and I
here's
absolutely love
one.
playing
What
this
if
thing.
you see if John Harris is available for Frogger?
I don't have any
works on
contact
that. I don't know
information
if
for
he's still in
John.
the area or not.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have any contact information for John Harris. I
think I
John
do
Harris,
somewhere.
and there's a lot of John Harrises.
Yeah, I think I have his contact via email. So I haven't talked to him in years, so I don't know if it's still valid or not. So, that's nice.
We need to get you, Gavin, we need to get you a better video output. Seriously.
Boy, what's wrong with my video output?
Dude, it's so simple. UAV plus RetroTink 2X equals awesome video output.
This is a RetroTink 2X on this, but it's stock 130 XE, so.
That would be one.
Yeah.
Okay. Now.
And up until real recently, I haven't wanted to mod any of my things. That's why, you guys should be proud of me that I ordered the incognito board, which I always said I'm never going to touch my Atari 800. So here I've got an incognito board coming, and I've got a Sidecar 3 coming. So it's baby steps.
It's, I honestly, the Ultimate 1MB and the Incognito are 2 of the best expansions you can ever get for an 8-bit machine. It literally brings the usability factor up by 1 billion, and honestly, from the FujiNet perspective, it ultimately means you get high-speed I/O for every single thing, all the devices, and it just works.
What's scary is the graphics quality is so good that you actually see the pixelation on those old,
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny as you look at it and go, "Oh, I didn't know." On an old TV set, you never noticed because it was pretty blurry.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Plus, out of my lab, I use glass. I mean, my computer is normally hooked up to a CRT, so I.
Oh wow.
I don't have the space for it. I really have to pick and choose what I have in my lab, much less what's on the bench. Right now, I'm currently working on the software for the Coleco Atom version of FujiNet. I actually have one of its screens on my display. So yeah, FujiNet moving on to other platforms.
So Coleco, what else? Anything else?
So I'm currently working on the Coleco version because that was what came together really quickly. All the information I needed and everything kind of just congealed, and I immediately knew how to implement it. So I'm knocking that out. So in addition to that, we have a Commodore 64 version which runs over the IEC connector. That started coming up a few months ago. And there's one hacker that's working on that right now. I'm trying to work with him to try and get that smoothed off and to a usable state. Maswald, the hardware designer, has an Apple II, has a couple of Apple IIs now. And we're trying to work with Apple II hackers to find a way to bring FujiNet onto the Apple II. So the idea really, and as we bring, the goal here is to bring this onto as many 8-bit systems as we can, with the goal of being able to take and bring all these communities together, not just in terms of technically connecting them together, but also to facilitate a means of social sharing between all of these communities. That's my teeny little hope.
It'd be nice to have all the different platforms to be able to talk to one another and actually share that.
Mm-hmm. It's not only just being able to talk to each other, but also being able to participate as first-class internet citizens. I mean, I don't know if it's immediately evident, but the FujiNet can do crypto. It handles SSL, it handles TLS, and once I really work out how to take and talk to an XML and JSON parser over an IO channel, really refine that out, we'll be able to do things like parse huge chunks of JSON and XML, which means we'll be able to handle OAuth requests, which means we'll be able to handle talking to web server endpoints easily, without having to have some rinky-dinky little Python script running on a server somewhere taking and parsing things for us. So it's the possibilities are just really starting to open up, and people are starting slowly to understand what's possible with the end device. A good example of the integration here is, for example, Neon. I didn't know that Neon existed for the first 2 months of its existence, and it wasn't being written for the FujiNet. It wasn't. It was just this hypertext browser that the guy behind Adventure Ponies was writing, that maps all of the Atari display modes into a hypertext format. And then he was like, I wonder if, he's just using the standard operating system, CIO operating system routines to read and write data, to read data across. He's like, I wonder if this will work with the FujiNet. Well, sure enough, we tried it with the FujiNet and the end device, and it worked first time. So that's one of the crazy things. There's no networking code inside Neon whatsoever.
You've got developed something that's I would call it the Swiss Army knife of tools, and it's amazing all the things that have been created. So
I'm as surprised as you are. Believe
Pardon me?
me, I'm as surprised as you are, and honestly, that's what I was hoping for.
It is really great, and when I first saw it, I immediately went, "I have to have that." So, you
Dude,
know,
there's
having the time to play with it has been the big issue. I work in computers every day with cybersecurity and stuff like that, so having a computer at home and playing with it is pretty funny and quite obsessive, to say the least.
I no completely understand, and from my perspective, I do my day job is essentially doing. I'm part of a research and development team at Ericsson, and we make DevOps tools, and so and the so much of the stuff that I do for my day job is absolutely isn't just mind-numbingly, if it's not mind-numbingly boring, some of the stuff we do is truly fucking heinous, to say the least. And it's you know, it's just business, but you know, for me it's absolutely, I need the stuff that I do with FujiNet and the things that I contribute to the retro computing community, because for me it's therapy.
Well, I think we all appreciate that, because honestly, I mean, sometimes I'll go home and I'll plug in Mr. Do and play it for a couple hours to turn my brain off.
And and the thing that I love about contributing to all of these, I love all of these retro computers. I mean, I'm serious. I love them all. Yes, even the Mattel Aquarius. But you know, like take for example my time with the Coleco Atom. This is the first time that I've actually had my hands on a Coleco Atom, and I've got to say I've now become a fan of this thing, and all of the bad rap that it got from the press and all the other crap, completely fucking unwarranted.
Well, I think the real thing that killed it was silly things like where it gauze the tape, or the printer was required to run the device. You know, things that they could have designed around or retroed it and fixed it.
Yeah,
and
these are things
just
and these are things that you can deal with now. And one of the interesting things, and this is really kind of like, okay, from the Atom's perspective here, the printer and all of the major peripherals are actually network nodes. They're network components, quite literally. The printer is the printer is a network node, the disk drives are a network node, the tape drives are a network node, and so on. So basically, yes, the printer provides power, but they brought the power and the AtomNet network connection over on the same connector. So if I were to, if Moswald were to take and say, for example, we could combine FujiNet into a power supply that would basically bolt on to the side of the Atom console, and you would drop kick the printer and still have printing access because you still have virtual PDF output.
Right.
And you know, now you've got now all of those orphaned Atom consoles that don't have their printers anymore can suddenly
are functional again.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds actually good. Are you actually considering that?
Yes. Yes.
I might have to quickly buy an Atom while they're going to be cheap online.
Oh yeah, you mean before the speculators get to them?
Exactly, because that's what happens with everything. It's amazing.
Yes. Well, and not only that, and this is the one thing that's also not completely evident too, even the keyboard is a network node.
Really?
Yeah, it's so, I mean, the FujiNet, we could attach, we could potentially, if I could find a way to multiplex the I/O pins, you could put a USB connector on it, and if you don't have a keyboard, plug into the FujiNet. Yeah,
that would be kind of cool. Yeah, put it in the power supply at the same time, so it just plugs in.
Yeah, or actually we could do it directly over the Bluetooth connection. So there we go. Because the ESP32 has a Bluetooth port on it. So there. So yeah, no, it's like I said, it's a good machine, good software, good underlying operating system, lots of interesting tricks, a lot. The engineers that worked on this damn thing, it was clear that, yeah, they were being pressured by management to take and get this thing out as quickly as possible. Yet, despite the insane constraints that they were under, they somehow managed to stick 20 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag.
Yeah, I actually built a ColecoVision actually emulator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I got it running. It's using one of the designs that's on the web these days, and it has graphics out and stuff like that. I just wanted to play some ColecoVision games, and I didn't have a ColecoVision, so I ended up building a unit. So
I got the 5 or so games that Coleco made for the Atom, the super games that run on the they're phenomenal. They're fantastic.
Yeah, those versions of the game are quite incredible. They're really arcade quality games on a little unit, and it's pretty interesting to play them because you sit there and go, "What the heck? This is amazing." So.
Oh yeah, no, Donkey Kong Jr. is my favorite. It has all the levels from the arcade, all of them, and I think the only home version that actually did have all the levels, including Mario's hideout.
And didn't they include the cutscenes as well, so that it's got everything?
Yes.
Yeah.
All the cutscenes, has all of, they crammed it all in there. The Donkey Kong, same thing with the Donkey Kong. Same thing with Buck Rogers' Planet of Zoom. It has that was the thing that was the big jip on all of the other platforms that Sega released versions for. The versions of the game that Sega released for other platforms were really not just truncated, but utterly lobotomized.
Yeah.
Basically, the most you got was just the zooming through the goalpost levels, and you got this, and you got to
Yeah, and I think that's what really actually killed the video game industry was the fact that it got to the point where everything was being ported to different platforms, and it was really about, can we get it out in time for Christmas, and not about the quality of the actual conversion to where it looked good.
Yep. No, some of these guys were pumping these ports out in 3 months.
Right.
And it shows. Jesus.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I look at some of these different games and I sit there and go, wow, this isn't even close, but it got sold that way.
Oh, Atari Soft was the biggest was the biggest criminal in that area. So they're way wildly inconsistent. Although I do have to hand it, as wildly inconsistent as it is, I do feel sorry for some of them because trying to do arcade quality stuff on an Apple II is difficult. Difficult to say the least. And okay, they never did a version of Pole Position, and there were reasons for that. So anyway, although all good. So yeah, I mean, I'm really interested. My thing right now is I have to, as soon as I get off here, I have to prepare for my little dog and pony show for the meetup tonight here in Frisco, because they want to take and see what's possible with this goofy thing.
Is that going to be streamed, or is it? Just the library.
I do not know. You'd have to ask John Hardy for that. Not about that.
Okay.
No idea. Lots of cool people are going to be there. Becky Heineman is also going to be speaking there as well with her spouse as well.
Okay. Interesting.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I appreciate you letting us know some of the development stuff that's coming forward and what to maybe look for, because the Coleco, I've always wanted a Coleco Atom, but I just, you got to have it with the printer, and it's like, or either that or I have to retrofit it with a new power supply, and I just didn't want it.
Yes, I completely agree. And so this will really open that up and get some of these things, get some of these units that were orphaned and get them available. Actually, one of the things that really surprised me about the Atom, the thing that has no right being as good as it actually are the damn tape drives.
Mm-hmm.
These things are completely and utterly bizarre. You look at them, you look at the tapes themselves, and the tapes look like, the actual tapes themselves, they look like cassettes. They're shaped like cassettes for the most. They're a little different though. The holes are in slightly different places, and you can adapt existing cassettes to use on these devices. But the real things, the cases are actually thicker. They're made of thick, heavy Lexan plastic. And there's a reason for it. Jesus Christ. Because when these things are seeking, they're going at 80 inches per second. When they are, and that's not fast forwarding and rewinding. That's not one reel just pulling.
That's actually reading?
Yes.
It's a read speed. Wow.
Yeah. So that's it. So and the thing about it is that in every single state, both motors are going at the same time. The transport is literally set up so that there is as little there is as little slack in the tape as humanly possible at every single step of the way. And so both motors are moving 80 inches per second while it's seeking for the block, 20 inches per second while it's reading. So these tapes can actually get hot. I actually had a tape that I had converted that literally it ran so hot, and so I was doing stress tests on it and seeing what was possible. I actually melted part of the inside of the tape from it being hammered so hard. So yeah, fun times. And the other thing that's not immediately evident, it's not it's block oriented. So it works like a 9-track tape drive on a mainframe, or it works like if you've ever used deck tape on a PDP-11, it works like that. So you literally say, I want block number 12. Okay, it will take and it'll read where it is and then figure out, okay, I need to go over here. So it has some, the microcontroller code has some acceleration and velocity sensing code so that it will take and move, and then it takes and hits the brakes when it gets close. They put a lot, like I said, they put a lot of thought into it. And because they integrated the tape drive as just another network node, as just another device in the system, you can run anything off of tape. And this includes, and I'm so not kidding, you can run CPM off of the tape.
Wow.
Yeah. Do you want to? Maybe not, but you can do it.
Well, I also built the RC, what is it? I think I built the RC 2014, one of those little CPM computers just to play with. So yeah, I've been doing just weird stuff to keep myself entertained. And you know, I actually have fond memories of CPM since I learned. I was young enough and I learned on that.
Yep. Gotcha.
It's amazing to me
Yep.
to think that, you know, DOS won only because someone was at the right place at the right time.
Well,
And
well, for that, it was a case of, Digital Research didn't want to agree, wasn't agreeing to IBM's rather heavy-handed licensing terms. They wanted
yeah,
to go,
and the non-disclosure piece that would have to be signed just to talk to them.
yes,
So,
yes,
yeah.
and
Yeah, and I'm familiar with like the OS2 and Microsoft situation. What is it? Ooey Gooey. There's a great book called The Ooey Gooey Wars that talks
Yes.
about the differences between those. And I worked at a large insurance company that had invested in PS2s with the
I'm so sorry.
with the OS operating system on there, and then with the old what was the font? Not font, but network. It was the old. I called it jumper cable because
LAN manager.
yes, exactly.
LAN
But
manager.
it was interesting to see how all that had developed. What has he got going there?
He's playing software.
Oh God.
Oh,
He's having good memories of times in the past, apparently.
Yeah, I'm reliving my childhood.
I got to get going myself. I got to go do some work for some of the restaurants in town. All right. Hey, Gavin, please keep me informed. And I definitely want to be involved. I mean, we talked about that when you were in the shop, and it's just getting my attention, and I would be more than glad to help in any way if you need it. Okay.
Okay, I appreciate it. Like I said, we're going to need some speakers here. I think I know Peter had some European guys in mind, which would be great as well. So we'll see what we can come up with. But like I said, I'm really hoping that Nolan is going to join us in October. Right? That would be kind of
I think through Ken and Roberta, you might be able to get Al.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to Ken and see if I can get a hold of Alan, because Al is usually, I don't know if he's doing anything that he wants to promote. I know he had a Kickstarter going on. He was going to redo Leisure Suit Larry or something not too long ago, but I kind of stopped following that, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. But
all right, well, I'm going to hop off. I will talk to you later, and I'll be in touch because I definitely want to stay involved. Okay.
Okay, Harry, have a good one. I appreciate you coming.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions or anything for me?
No, I just want to bring in some advertising. You know, Panos remade the 65XE revised board, and it's sold out. He will never do it again, but at Abuk we got a badge when he did it. So if somebody still is searching for 65XE revised board, you can get it at the Abuk shop.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, I got the version for which the UAV already has soldered on, but in Abuk shop, of course, we sell the pure version without anything on it. And you could try to put Fujinet directly on the board, but there will be a chip in the way, and of course you have to redo the switches then. But maybe that's something I try. I have 2 of those boards here.
That's pretty awesome. I got to quit typing on my Atari. I keep needing to type on my PC, and I keep typing on the Atari. Okay, gentlemen. Well, I think if nobody else has anything, we might just call it a day. It's been 3 hours now, which seems like typical for our meetings.
Right on schedule.
Right on schedule. And hey, have fun at that real live event tonight, Tom. I'm kind of jealous that you get to actually see people in person.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not able to make it to VCF West, but I will be at VCF East and I will be at VCF Midwest this year.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, for the Americans, in 2 weeks, the Fujiyama will start, the Atari meeting in Eastern Germany, which goes for 1 full week, and Americans are allowed to enter Germany. The other way around, I can't come to the US. It was planned in October, but Biden does not let me in. But if you are very spontaneous, grab a flight and come to the Fujiyama starting on September 12th and lasting for a full week. We had Kay Sabatz there 2 years ago,
Yes.
Maurice Mantarola and other people. So when it is like 1 week, it is, of course, easier to go there than for a meeting which just goes a weekend or so.
I will have to go. Won't be able to make it this year, but I will try to make it next year for sure.
And that would be a fun one to go to.
Oh, by all accounts, everybody that I know that's been there, it's a blast.
And of course, you missed the funniest meeting so far. We had the Silly Venture in Gdansk, Poland, and it was held in the big football arena. So we had the whole arena, and Michal, he played videos and stuff on all the screens in the stadium and in that bar where we actually had then our computer set up. So that was really fun. Imagine Atari party in a football stadium. So that was really awesome.
The words cannot express that. Wow.
Yeah.
If you let
Ray
me
is
say something,
unbelievable.
I was there and it was really fantastic, and they showed many great videos, demos, and there was one of French group. I don't know if you saw what Gray was posted on Facebook. I can put that link off because that video is really amazing, and it was making for celebration of 35 years of Atari. So next time you must be there. What I can say.
Yes.
I will try to find the link, and I put on the chat.
So Michal was asking about how can we get even better having Silly Venture in a football stadium, and then Slater, he proposed to say, okay, next step would be Death Star, and it was meant as a joke, but when we looked at Michal's face at that time, so prepare for Silly Venture at Death Star, however that will work out.
Wow. Okay. All right. All right, gentlemen, I'm out of here. Have fun, guys.
Okay, everybody, I appreciate those of you that showed up and those of you that stuck around. It was an awesome meeting. It was great seeing y'all. And Sasha, I am so glad to see that box finally made it to Germany. I was beginning to think I was going to have to drive that box to Germany myself.
Yes, very good.
I will need to heat the soldering iron now.
Yeah, get to work, buddy. Get to work.
Aye, sir.
Okay, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, you guys.
I have to get out of here. They're pushing me. Bye-bye.
Bye.